In March of 2017, I traveled to Buenos Aires, Argentina to visit my mom. My mom has been living here for almost 10 years now, but I'd never flown in to visit her. I was only there a week, but in that short time span, was able to get a feel for what the culture and my mom's day-to-day experience in the city is like. I spent my free time reading Andrés Neumann's How to Travel Without Seeing. In this non-fiction travel memoir, Neumann writes small notes while traveling throughout Latin America for a book tour. His notes resemble a mix of flash fiction and short-form journalism. To him, this is how we travel now. We see snippets. We don't see the whole picture. Traveling for many of us is actually not seeing. I am Venezuelan by birth, so technically I am a product of Latin America. However, I've lived in the US for the majority of my life, so I'm much less informed about Latin American culture, politics, and literature. Neumann's book, fortunately, provided fantastic context for my travels. In the same short-form flash style of his book, I thought I'd relate my own experiences, my own flash notes of my time there. The first thing that I noticed is that Buenos Aires is a political city. 2 of the 7 days I was there were massive protests in one of the main squares called Plaza de Mayo. The first protest was in support of teachers, or docentes, who, along with their union, were demanding higher wages. This protest march seemed incredibly well organized. I was pretty flabbergasted that there were even parrillas set up with burgers and chorizos being grilled for everybody to just buy when they were taking a break from their protesting. It was my first time that week at Plaza de Mayo, so I was able to see their version of the White House, La Casa Rosada, aka the Pink House. The second day we saw protests, it was definitely a lot more fanatical and political. I found this a little bit strange because it was supposed to be Día Nacional de la Memoria por la Verdad y la Justicia, a day of remembrance for the up to 30,000 who disappeared after a military coup which took over in 1976 and lasted until 1983. P.S. It was a coup that Henry Kissinger, President Nixon's Secretary of State, approved of, according to declassified documents that later came to light. My mom said it was the most people she'd ever seen out in that square. At one point, we got on the subway to sidestep one huge group, got off the subway 3 stops over. The group was so big that we found another section of it as we got off the subway. We also decided to stop at the supermarket on the way home, and while we were waiting in line, hundreds of marchers kept passing through. They honestly seemed like an endless throng of people. And now, with some time that has passed since this trip, and with current violent repressions that are occurring in Venezuela, I can tell, and I have witnessed, that Latin America is still trying to find its stability in political matters. My mom's friend put it really eloquently when he drove me to the airport on my last day. He told us a story about an old car he had owned, which one day was left open just a crack. Some soil fell into the driver's side door. When he noticed it soon thereafter, a seed had already made its home there and had started growing into a plant. He related this as a metaphor for how it's easy to grow in Argentina. Argentina is definitely fertile. My mom quickly interjected that Venezuela is the same with its oil field. Latin American countries in general have so much potential to grow, but it's so typical for corruption and bad government to stifle it. Politics aside, Buenos Aires also has a rich cultural identity. One of the highlights of my trip was visiting El Ateneo, a bookstore in an old theater on Avenida Santa Fe. The theater was originally opened in 1919 and was a great place to see tango artists of the day. Its ceilings feature frescoes and beautiful architecture both inside and outside. In 2000, El Ateneo was converted into a bookshop, keeping most of the architecture and style. Today, El Ateneo sees over 1 million people a year and sells over 700,000 books a year. It is known as one of the world's most beautiful bookshops, and I definitely agree. Overall, my trip to Argentina was one of enlightenment. It helped me understand a Latin America I don't live in anymore, just a tiny bit better. And best of all, I got to experience it all with my favorite person in the world, my mom.